Hello and welcome to Montgomery and Associates. My name is Carol Aragon Montgomery and I will be your presenter today. Today's presentation is going to be all about the education that we would normally do during an initial consultation. We want to try something new and have an opportunity for you guys to watch the video of us doing the education rather than paying for that during your consultation. So right now I'm going to share that PowerPoint with you and we'll focus on that instead of focusing on me. All right. So I want to just, first of all, again, thank you for taking time to review this video today. We look forward to serving your long-term care planning needs, and our contact information will be on every slide, so you'll have a chance to review it or contact us or send an email if you need to. All of the services that we offer at Montgomery & Associates are regarding planning. I always like to talk about what we offer because I think it's important for you to know all of the services and the breadth and the depth of knowledge that we bring to you today. The first thing that we do, and one thing that we've been known for in the community for over 30 years, is we do Arizona Long-Term Care System Planning and Representation. Also, we refer to that as Altex planning. We also help people understand the Medicare cost sharing programs and acute care access. I am also a certified legal document preparer, and that allows me to prepare legal documents, many of which we use during the long-term care planning process. George and I are also Medicare Insurance brokers for Medicare Advantage, prescription drug plans, and Medicare supplements, as well as ancillary products. And we also will talk with folks about non-government benefit financial planning for long-term care, and we can provide resources, referrals to resources in the community. As we mentioned during our phone call, our initial consultation is usually divided up into 3 sections: the education portion, which this video is going to cover today, an interview and questionnaire. The questionnaire was sent to you, or a link was sent to you via email, so you are welcome to review that questionnaire or complete it in advance. And then finally, a summary and options section. The interview, questionnaire, summary, and options will be all conducted during your initial consultation, and that will be billed at that $150 an hour that we discussed during our phone call. Okay. So I do like to take some time to talk about the different levels of care as far as who is helping cover medical coverage for individuals who need long-term care. The first is going to be Medicare. Medicare is an entitlement program that you pay into throughout your working career. There are 4 parts of Medicare: A, B, C, and D. A and B are going to be original Medicare. C is going to be your Medicare Advantage plans, and D is going to be your prescription drug coverage. The big deal with Medicare is that it primarily only covers acute care only. It doesn't really cover long-term care in the way that most individuals who come to us need long-term care. The only time that Medicare is going to cover what we call long-term care is really in the form of rehabilitation, and that's going to be 20 days in a rehab center or up to 20 days in a rehab center after someone has had a 3-day hospitalization. If the person is making progress, Medicare can cover up to 100 days. However, that 100 days is not guaranteed because someone is making a judgment as to whether or not the person who needs that rehabilitation is actually making progress or whether or not their progress has plateaued. The second level of paying for long-term care comes in the form of Medicaid. It does cover long-term care services. However, unlike Medicare, Medicaid is not an entitlement program. No one is entitled to Medicaid coverage. It is a needs-based program that one must qualify for, and it's also known as Title 19. States are given an opportunity to create their Medicaid program, and in Arizona, Arizona has chosen to call its program ACCESS. ACCESS stands for Arizona Health Care Cost Containment System. And as the name implies, the whole goal of ACCESS's program was to contain the cost of healthcare in the state of Arizona. How did we do that in Arizona? Well, in other states, their Medicaid program is run on what we call a fee-for-service model. What that means is that each person that incurs a bill, when they incur it, or when they incur that fee, it is paid at the time the service is incurred. Unlike Arizona, who chose to do what we call a capitated model, being that every single month a member is on Access or Altex, a certain amount of money is capitated or paid out to the health plan to provide care for that member that is on the health plan. Arizona is one of the first states to do that, and they've trained other states to do that as well, but it's just a little bit different model versus what original Medicaid was. What is Altex? Altex is a division of Access. Access is kind of the main umbrella of Medicaid medical care in the state of Arizona, and Altex is a division or one of the pieces or one of the programs underneath that umbrella. It's pronounced Altex, A-L-L-T-E-X, but it's spelled A-L-T-C-S. It is a program that has 3 sets of eligibility criteria, and there is a 45-day application processing timeframe associated with that program. Now, Access Altex is not in the business of caregiving. Most of the individuals who are coming to us that need long-term care are going to need some form of long-term care, either at home or in a setting like assisted living or a nursing home. But Altex themselves is not going to be in the business of actually providing the care to the individual. Instead, they act as an administrator and the funder of the program out to the health plans. So Access is kind of the big umbrella. Altex is a division. They work with the Arizona population and Access members, and then those members enroll with a health plan, or for Altex purposes, what they call a program contractor. Now, in Maricopa County, there are 3 program contractors. Those 3 program contractors, in no particular order, are Mercy Care Plan, United Healthcare, and Banner University Family Care. Those are the 3 health plans, AKA program contractors, that provide care for every member that's on Altex, okay? When you apply for the program and you are approved, you will enroll with one of those health plans and you get a choice. If you do not make a choice, Altex will auto-enroll you into one of those plans. Now, it's really important that once the case is approved and you pick your health plan, you are enrolled in that health plan, and then you are assigned a case manager. That case manager is the one who meets with the member to set up the service plan and to determine how many numbers of hours of services you can receive. Once that service plan is set up, then the services can start for the applicant member. One of the important things for people to remember is that you do have to be living in an Altex approvable living arrangement. Care can be received under Altex at home. That's any place that is not a facility, and it's always an approvable setting. In that care setting, you're going to get maybe a maximum of 30 to 40 hours per week of what we call home and community-based services. Now, it's really important that I point out here that that 30 to 40 hours is, again, not a guarantee. That's just a number that we have seen happen for many of our customers. We do encourage you to start documenting how many hours of service you are currently providing if you're the caregiver for your loved one, so that you can clearly indicate to the case manager that your loved one does need that 30 to 40 hours per week. And then the average monthly copay for people who are living at home and receiving Altex services is 0. That's not everybody, but that's the average. The average person isn't going to have to pay for their care while living at home. The next approvable living arrangement is in what they call a 24/7 care setting, and that can be an assisted living home or assisted living group home, an assisted living center, or an assisted living facility. Normally, it's a campus of care with usually more than 10 residents, or they can live in a skilled nursing facility, basically a nursing home or a higher level of care. It's really important to me that I point out at this time that you are only guaranteed a semi-private room in these settings. That doesn't mean you won't get a private room, but generally you're only going to be getting help with a semi-private room. If your care home or care facility is only authorized to put 1 person per room, and that room is an Altex room, then you may be lucky and you may get a private room. However, Altex doesn't pay for that. So if your loved one does need to be in a private room, then they may charge you extra above and beyond the Altex cost to be able to be in a private room. In this setting, assisted living homes, assisted living care facilities, skilled nursing facilities, there is always a monthly copay. It is referred to as a share of cost or a room and board, and that is the amount that the Altex member will have to contribute toward the cost of their care every single month. Here's some things that we have found out throughout the years whenever we've been encouraging people to do their education before they shop for a care home or a care facility. These are some questions that you need to ask if you know that the person that you're applying for is going to be going off, obviously, onto the program. The first thing that they need to know is this an Altex contracted facility? If it is not, then, and you know the person's running out of money, you may want to reconsider placement into this type of setting. Now, I have had enough experiences in my career to know that asking that question alone is not sufficient. You are going to need to ask another question, and that is, what is the facility's access provider ID number? You need to know that because if the facility themselves does not know that number, or they're not willing to give it to you, or they're not willing to even look it up, then I would be suspect of whether or not that facility has an Altex contract already in place. So very, very important to get that information up front before you do any type of placement into this setting. The next thing you need to find out is with which program contractor is the facility already contracted. So again, we talked about Mercy Care, United Healthcare, and Banner. You need to find out which one of these providers which one of these program contractors the providers already accept, because it's going to be important to know that if that facility or that provider only accepts one of them, for example, Mercy Care, then you will need to choose that program contractor for your loved one that's going on the program. Now, let's just say, for sake of example, that that facility or that care provider accepts all three of the providers. Then how do you decide? Well, then we want you to check to see if any of the members' current doctors or hospitals are already contracted with that program contractor. For example, if you're going to go to Banner Mesa or Banner Estrella, or if you're going to go to Honor Health System, do any of those providers already accept one of the Altex health plans? Now, I want to point out here that I have a lot of people who just will call up a facility or a place and say, oh, do you accept Altex? And they will say, yes, yes, we do. Or do you accept Access? Or do you accept Mercy Care? Or do you accept Banner, University Family Care? Or do you accept United Healthcare? You do have to remember that those companies have multiple plans that are covered, right? So you might have a United Healthcare plan that is not related to Altex at all. You might have a Banner plan that is only a Medicare plan, or you might have a Mercy Care plan that's only a Medicaid acute care provider. So you do need to be very specific and ask them, is this an Altex Banner plan? Do you accept the United Healthcare Altex plan? Not just, do you accept United Healthcare? Okay, so if your loved one is in a facility or care place that accepts all three Altex program contractors, check with doctors and hospitals, because you just want continuity of care. You don't want to lose providers just because you switch to a different health plan. And then last but not least, do check with the facilities and or the providers to find out how long do you need a private pay before they can roll onto the Altex program. There are some facilities we've run into that have a 6-month minimum, meaning they're not going to let you go onto Altex until you've paid 6 months private pay or out of pocket. Some facilities have as long as a 2-year requirement. And then there are some facilities or care providers that have no minimum, meaning the minute you get approved, you can go on to their plan under Altex. Okay, so very important information. Now, earlier I did mention that Altex does have some eligibility criteria. So what we're going to do now is break that eligibility criteria into the 3 components that Altex is looking at. The first component is non-financial criteria. And on the non-financial side of things, there are basically 9 things that Altex is looking at. They're looking at, 1, can you be linked to the program through age or disability? Again, when we talk age, we're saying, are you under 18 or over 65? Or are you linked through disability or blindness because you're maybe between the ages of 18 and 65? The next thing that Altex requires is that you be a U.S. citizen or a qualified alien to qualify for the program. And you just have to be able to verify that. The next thing is Social Security number, and that is because they use your Social Security number to do computer matches with other government agencies and their eligibility verification system. Now, why do they do that? Well, they want to make sure that you're disclosing the same information to them that you disclosed maybe to another agency. And then secondarily, their eligibility verification system is going out and pulling information about income and assets and any flag transfers that might have occurred in the past 5 years. We're going to talk more about that later. The next thing that Altex looks at is, can you prove identity? They also want to make sure that you're an Arizona resident, and they need to check your marital status because the rules for single individuals versus married people can be very different. The next 3 areas that Altex is looking at on the non-financial side of things are, is that person residing in an approvable setting? We already talked about that a little bit today. The second thing is, does the person have any potential benefits that they maybe haven't tapped into? For example, if the applicant served in the military during a wartime period, they may have to submit an application to the Veterans Administration to see if they're eligible for a Veterans Administration benefit like pension, compensation, or aid in attendance. Altex also wants to know if the person ever worked for federal, state, city, or county government, or for any employers with pension plans, because occasionally people forget that they have those benefits and they haven't tapped into them yet. Altex wants to make sure they're getting as much money out of other entities first, because they don't want to be the person paying the bill if you have resources that you can use to pay your own bill. And then finally, they're looking at third-party liability. Third-party liability is going to be any other insurance or other benefits that you're entitled to that are supposed to be paying for your health insurance or medical costs. There's a list there on this page: Medicare, Medicare supplements, Advantage plans, retiree benefits, employer-sponsored, so on and so forth. They're looking for anything that they can tap into first, because access is always going to be the payer of last resort. Okay. The next area that Altex is looking at is the financial side of things. And on the financial side of things, there are 3 main things that Altex is looking at. The first is an income limit, and income is anything that you receive on a regular basis that helps you pay for food and shelter. It's something that you can be receiving in check or cash form. It can also be direct deposit, and it can be received in any type of frequency: daily, weekly, biweekly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or annually. The current income limit for 2022 is $2,523 per month. So that's the single applicant limit for the program. The married applicant limit for the program for this year is $5,046 per month. Now, at first glance, if your loved one is receiving more than that, you might just think, nope, I can't even qualify for the program. I might as well just stop now. But I don't want you to stop, because you're going to need to know more information. The first thing is that if the single applicant is over the single person limit, they are going to then say, well, do they have more money than it would cost to privately pay in a skilled nursing facility in the state of Arizona? That limit is close to $8,000 a month. If they're between 25-23 and that average private pay rate, then they can use what's known as an income-only trust, also known as a Miller Trust, to income qualify for the program. We don't talk all the details about that trust at this time, because we want to make sure that your person even needs that before we spend time chatting about that. But just know that the Miller Trust, or the income-only trust, is the tool that helps you get income qualified when you're over the income limit. Now, as a couple, that income limit is basically doubled. And I do have many clients who, as a couple, their income is greater than that 5,046 number. Just remember, with married couples, there's 2 steps that they have to look at. The first step is, as a couple, do they have less than 5,046? If they do, then they meet the income criteria. If they do not, if as a couple they're greater than 5,046, Altex then uses the one-person standard for the person that needs the program. So is the person that needs the program, is their income less than that one-person standard of $2,523? If it is, then they do not need an income-only trust to qualify for the program. If it's greater than 2523, then they will need that income-only trust income qualify for Altex. The second area that Altex looks at is resources, and resources are anything that you own that can be used to obtain food or shelter. It's going to be everything from cash-related assets to financial accounts at institutions, real property, personal property, life insurance, IRAs, investments, so on and so forth. The list is pretty comprehensive, and when you meet with us to do your consultation, you'll get to hear how lovely and long that list really is. Now, it's important to remember that some types of resources can be excluded from the eligibility determination. And again, your initial consultation will be looking at all of your assets to determine, are some of them conditionally excluded? Are some of them permanently excluded, or are all of them countable assets that will count toward that $2,000 resource limit? And that leads me into the resource limits, right? So the one person or single person individual number for 2022 is $2,000. That's $2,000 of countable assets, not the excluded ones. You can have those on top of that $2,000. Now, for married couples, the initial resource limit for a married couple is $29,480. That's again for year 2022. That doesn't mean that everybody who has more than $29,480 is automatically disqualified. That's because Altex has a whole other set of criteria that they have to look at to determine if the married couple can actually keep more than that $29,480. That's just the initial test to see, do they qualify now? Because if they have less than $29,480 today, they could move forward with the Altex application and be resource eligible at this time. For married couples, they have to do what's called a resource assessment to determine the community spouse resource deduction. The third area that's related to the financial side of things is transfers. Altex has a current look back period of 5 years. That's 5 years from the date that you apply. So you always want to go back and look at the last 5 years to determine if any of these kinds of things have happened. Has the person sold, traded, transferred, or given away any income, money, vehicles, or property? If they have sold, traded, transferred, or given away any of those things in the last 5 years, Altex is going to want to know about it so that they can determine if you received full value for that transfer. For example, did you sell a house? Did you sell it for full current market value? Did you trade a vehicle? Did you get current market value for it? Did you transfer the title to your house to your kids? If you did they pay you for it? Or did you just give it away to them for free? Did you give away any money? Did you make a donation to charities or churches? Or did somebody get married in your family and you gave them $1,000 gift? Altex is looking at all of these types of things to determine if there's a penalty period that needs to be assessed. They're looking for, again, anything in which you did not receive full value. If you did, then they're going to assess what they call a penalty period of ineligibility for those types of transfers. And then once you meet all the eligibility criteria for Altex, they will start that penalty period. Okay. All right. The third criteria for Altex, it technically falls under the non-financial side of things, but I always kind of view it as its own special eligibility because you could meet all the other criteria, but if you don't meet this criteria, you will not be approved for the program. This third criteria is the medical eligibility component for Altex. And on the medical eligibility side of things, I basically try to explain it like this, the simplest terms I know how to. And one is you have to be either severely cognitively impaired to be on the program, meaning your cognitive impairment impedes your ability for self-care, or you have to be severely physically impaired, meaning you have some sort of disability that causes you to not be able to use your body in a way to help you get ready and deal with your activities of daily living, or you have to be some combination of the two. some cognitive impairment, some physical impairment. The Altex medical eligibility is called a pre-admission screening, or a PAS, PAS for short. In that pre-admission screening, an applicant has to score at least 60 points to qualify for the program. Now, there are some key points here that I want to bring up because this has lately become the most difficult thing for people to pass. And that's because Altex is taking a very strong stance on the people that apply for the program, really being at risk of needing a skilled nursing facility level of care. It used to be that we could have people that were in memory care that just were kind of shoo-ins for the program, or people with disabilities like multiple sclerosis or some traumatic brain injury. It's no longer the case that you're just an automatic shoo-in. They are being very, very particular about the medical side of things. And I just want to make sure that people are going in prepared for this. For example, if you know that you have a loved one who's within about 6 to 12 months of running out of money, before you do any type of planning, I'm encouraging people to do a pre-admission screening, what they call a private pass for Altex first. And what that means is you're going to call Altex. You're not going to start an application process. You're going to ask for a private pass, private request pass. And you're going to ask them to do that first because you need to know, is that person going to medically qualify before you start down the process of doing any type of planning. Now, does that mean you don't need to meet with us? No, you do. You still need to meet with us because there may be some other things that we're going to find during that consultation that you'll need to know about before you ever apply for the program. Okay, so I still encourage people to take advantage of that. But that private pass is going to be critically important in many of the cases because before you implement any type of planning, you want to make sure medically the person qualifies. Now, the good news on that front is that if you do medically qualify, that pass is good for 6 months, which means you don't have to re-qualify within that 6-month window of time. The bad news is that you don't medically qualify, it may put a kibosh on any type of planning you're doing because you may want to hold off on that and keep enough funds available to pay for bills while you wait for that person to medically get to a point where they could qualify. A couple of other things on the private pass is once you receive the results of that, they're going to give you a score sheet that tells you how the person scored. What I encourage people to do is ask for the detailed assessment notes because we want to know what notes that they use, what information they use to determine what your score was in each of the particular areas. When Altex is scoring the pass, they use what they call the activities of daily living, or the ADLs, to make that determination. ADLs are going to be bathing, grooming, dressing, toileting, mobility, transferring, and eating. So those are the main areas that Altex is going to be looking at. Again, when you meet with us, we're going to do a mini medical evaluation to see about where the person would score. But if you think the person is a shoo-in, just ask for that private pass up front. That way you can have that piece done and we know we're good to go. Okay. And then the last thing that I want to mention with regard to the pass, whether it's a private pass or whether it's just the regular pass eligibility that you're doing when you apply, is that if the person does have a neurological issue like cognitive impairment, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, dementia, any of those kinds of things, you're going to want to make sure that you have that neurological assessment done and it's available for Altex. So for example, in order to get 20 points on the pass, for the cognitive impairment, the person has to not only have the neurological assessment completed, but that assessment needs to indicate that that person is moderate to severe Alzheimer's or cognitive impairment and not just mild cognitive impairment. Okay, so super important information to know for the future on that one. All right. Last but not least, on the Altex side of things, let's presume that the person meets all of the eligibility criteria and they are approved. Again, they're enrolled with the program contractor and then those services will begin. Every member who is on the program does have to contribute toward the cost of their care. And the way that that is calculated is based on gross monthly income. That's the same way that they calculate income eligibility. They always use gross monthly income, so the amounts before any deductions. Altex is going to start with a gross monthly income. They're going to subtract a personal needs allowance. That number is going to be based on whether or not they're living at home or living in a facility. If the person has a spouse, they'll deduct any spousal allowance that they're entitled to, and they'll deduct any health insurance premiums that the person is currently paying for. Health insurance for dental, vision, or medical, okay? Whatever's left is going to be the share of cost or the room and board. Share of cost is calculated by Altex, and share of cost is typically going to be what you would pay if you're in a skilled nursing facility. Room and board is going to be calculated by the program contractor, and that amount will be paid to the facility as well. Sometimes, especially for people who have an income-only trust, they may end up having both a share of cost and a room and board payment. So it's important that you remember that depending on your particular person's situation. All right, so we're going to stop talking about Altex for a few minutes. I want to chat about some of the Access Medicare savings plans so that you have that information as well. Again, our education portion is intentionally designed to give you lots of information. Even if you meet with us, do the consultation, get your questions answered, go through all that, and you decide, you know what, I think I can do this on my own. Great. We want you to be able to do that. And the way that you do that is by having as much information upfront as possible. So on the Access Medicare savings plans, there are basically 3 programs that a person can be eligible for. So let's presume, for the sake of illustration, that you're not even pursuing Altex. That's not even on the agenda. You just want to check to see if your loved one qualifies for one of these programs. The current income limits are posted on the screen here. The QMB program is a plan that allows people to get help with their Medicare Part B premium. It also helps with the coinsurance and the deductibles for Medicare A and B. QMB is what I'm going to just call it this. I hope I don't offend anybody. It's just the poor person's version of a Medicare supplement plan. And I say that because if you have low income in these numbers, you can't always afford a Medicare supplement premium. But if your income is this low, you don't have to afford it. The government provides that to you for free. So if you qualify for the QMB program because your income is below these limits, then just know you can be on QMB, and that will basically act as a supplement to your Medicare A and B, and you'll have almost 100% coverage, at least 100% coverage for Medicare covered services. Okay. Now, with QMB, you do not have to go to any particular Medicaid provider. You can go to any provider that accepts Medicare in the state of Arizona. Your QMB is going to be related to the state that you're in. So you need to make sure that your providers are contracted in Arizona, and then you'll show your Access QMB card. It won't be an Access card. It'll have the Access logo on it, but it'll say on your card QMB only, and that's when it acts like a Medicare supplement. Now, individuals who qualify for the QMB program can also enroll in a Medicaid health insurance plan and a health plan that can help them have, again, 100% coverage, and they get to go to Medicare or Medicaid approved providers. So if a person wants to enroll in acute care access as well, they would pick a health plan, and then they could be on access and QMB. Now, the caveat with that is that in order for the medical bills and expenses to be paid, they have to utilize providers that are under their access health plan. There are many access health plans. There are not just 3 of those. There's many of them. So that's a decision you'll need to think about as well. But again, if you have low income, you can qualify for QMB and or QMB access. Additionally, when somebody qualifies for acute care access on this particular level, they can also qualify for a Medicare Advantage plan, dual special needs plan. And I can chat about that a little bit more later. Now, the other 2 Medicare savings plans that exist are the SLMB or SLMB program and the QI1 program. And as you can see here, all that's different about those 2 programs is the income limit, but then also the benefit of those 2 programs. So QMB covers Medicare Part B premiums. It also covers your coinsurance and your deductibles. SLMB and QI1 only cover the Medicare Part B premium. But this year, that premium is $170.10. So that $170.10 can stay in your pocket instead of being paid out to Medicare for your medical insurance coverage. Okay. So very important information and programs that exist to help you pay for that. Now, the one wonderful thing about these programs is there are no resource or asset guidelines for acute care access, QMB, SLMB, and QI1. And when I say acute care access, the one that relates to the QMB program, that income level. So no asset limits. A person could literally have $1 million in a non-interest bearing account, and they would still qualify for this if their income was under the guidelines. Now, technically, anybody who has interest or dividends or other, other pensions and things like that, those are all going to count toward the income limit as well. But if your total income limit is below these numbers here, just know you can get some extra help subsidizing that premium coverage. Okay. Now, in addition to getting those benefits under the Medicare savings plans, whenever a person qualifies for the Medicare savings plans, they automatically qualify for the Medicare Extra Help Subsidy. What's nice about this plan is it subsidizes the prescription drug costs whenever you go to the pharmacy, okay? If you are over the Medicare savings plans income limits, then you can still qualify for Medicare Extra Help Subsidy, also referred to as LIS or low income subsidy, if your income and assets are within these guidelines here. Okay, so just important to keep that all in mind. Extra Help Subsidy pays some or all of your Medicare Part D premium, and it reduces your prescription copays. So it kind of has two benefits to that program. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit more about the veterans benefits programs that exist out there. Earlier during the Altex portion, I talked to you about potential benefits. And one of the potential benefits that Altex requires you to look into is the Veterans Administration programs. If you're not a veteran or a widow of a veteran who served during wartime, you can skip this next section or forward the video so you don't have to listen to me ramble on about it. But I want to plant some seeds about this program because I want to make sure you understand about it as well. We are not a Veterans Administration accredited agent, so we do not assist with applying for the program. I will tell you we have a lot of experience in dealing with this, but because there was a period of time when we didn't have to be accredited, Altex or Veterans Administration let us help people with this. Now we help people, but only if they're applying for Altex and we need to apply for them for this. If you're just applying for the Veterans Benefits Program, I want to send you to somebody who's accredited and who knows and keeps up with all of the nuances of that program. Okay? All right. So our checklist is this. Are you a veteran or a widow of a veteran? Did that veteran serve during a wartime period? Did that veteran have at least 90 days of active duty? Was that veteran honorably discharged? Does the person currently have low assets or low resources? Do they currently have low income? Do they currently have high income, but also high medical expenses? Are they blind or disabled, or do they need help with their ADLs or activities of daily living? If you answered yes to most of those questions, then all Veterans Administration programs are possible benefit for you. And so on the veterans benefit side of things, there is going to be an income criteria that has to be met. The reason that I put this little worksheet here is because I want people to understand that the veterans determination is a little different than how Altex does things. On the Altex side of things, Altex says this is the income limit. If you're 1 penny over that income limit, you don't qualify and you'll need that income only trust to income qualify for the program. With the veterans benefits programs, you are not going to just look at income. They are going to look at unreimbursed medical expenses. And what VA does different than Altex is they will actually offset that limit. So let's say that your income is about right here, but you have medical expenses that drop it down. So here's the income limit. Let's say your income is here. Well, if you have enough medical expenses to drop it below that limit at any point from 0 up to the maximum, then you would potentially be eligible for a monthly benefit. So again, this particular page here if you want it, I can always print it for you, but just know that they're going to be looking at reimbursed medical expenses to determine if you income qualify for that program. The Veterans Benefits Administration, excuse me, also has an asset limit. That asset limit is very high. It's about $126,000. And I just realized that number actually might be higher. I can't remember off the top of my head. I might not have updated this one, but it's up there. It's over $100,000 either way. So if you have less than that, you are still a potential candidate for that program. And just know that married couples have double that limit, okay? And then the last thing that the Veterans Administration looks at is they do have now a transfer or look back period of 3 years. They are looking for any time that you didn't receive full value, and then you'll have a penalty for that as well. Okay, so again, just trying to give you some updated information there. These are the current maximum annual pension rates for all the different groupings that we particularly run into. There are still a few other categories that aren't on this list, but this is mostly what we see, so that's what's on here. And then it kind of has the breakdown of what the benefit is per year, what it ends up being per month, and then if there's an aid in attendance portion, what the breakdown would be between that and the pension limit. Okay, so that's what this chart is all about. All right. And then last, but certainly not least, and one of the things that I find to be one of the most important things that people need to do is have their paperwork in order and doing their legal document preparation. 1 out of 2 Americans will suffer some sort of prolonged disability in his or her lifetime. So I just think there is always a need for what we call pre-crisis planning and getting your legal documents in place. The alternative, if you do not have your legal documents completed, will be for your family to ask a court to appoint a guardian or conservator for you. Those processes are both cumbersome, they're also time-consuming, and they're also expensive. The first thing that I want to make sure that you know about is that I'm not an attorney. I'm not employed by an attorney. I'm not in a law firm. No attorney is reviewing the documents that I prepare for people. That's one of the requirements of being a certified legal document preparer, is that I tell people that I'm not an attorney at law. What that means is I just can't give you legal advice. It does mean that I'm capable of giving you all of your information about your options and all of those kinds of things. I just can't be specific and tell you what you should or should not do. The documents that I prepare here in my firm include revocable living trust and estate planning documents, power of attorney for financial health care and mental health care, last wills and testaments, living will or advance directives, income-only trusts for Altex, and also a couple of other special needs trusts and deeds. If you do not have your paperwork in order, remember, it's costly. In cases that involve attorneys, these costs range from $2,000 on up. The most recent case that I had a person tell me about, they spent over $30,000. So it's a lot of money when you can do it for a lot less cost now. Guardianships must be done through the court system, and the court decides if you can be the guardian. Conservatorships are also done through the court system for families or members, people that have more than $10,000 in assets. The conservator must also have a bond, and the court then must approve the expenditures. All right, and then on to one of the last services that we offer at our firm, and that's options for Medicare beneficiaries, Medicare Insurance. I always like to show this screen because, again, you have your original Medicare here, which includes Medicare A and B. If you decide that you want to just be on original Medicare only pays 80% of any medical costs or bills that are Medicare covered services. You are then on the hook for the other 20%. If you don't do any planning, so this is, let's say this chart here is not available, you just want to stick to original Medicare, anytime you go to a hospital or a doctor, you're going to be on the hook for the 20%, and there is no cap and no limit to how much you have to contribute. So if your bill is $1 million, Medicare, if it's Medicare approved $1 million service, they pay $800,000 and you would pay the other $200,000. That's a lot of money to come out of pocket with. So there are some options for people to choose from. The first option is to choose Medicare, have your A and B put into a Medicare Part C or private insurance company, Medicare Advantage plan like an HMO or PPO. Most of those Medicare Advantage plans have a prescription drug coverage, although not all do. So it's important that you understand the difference, because you can have a Part C without Part D. But if you choose a Part D plan, then that will cut out your Part C. You either have a CD plan or a C plan or a D plan. You can't have C with one company and D with another. Okay, so Medicare Part C works very much like an HMO or PPO. You have to go in network for your services. And then with these plans, you do have co-pays, co-insurance, and deductibles that have to be made. But you do have a cap, or what they call a MOOP, a maximum out of pocket that you would pay with any one of these plans. The next option is to just be with original Medicare A and B and then add a prescription drug plan. If you go that route, you're still on the hook for the 20% that Medicare doesn't cover here, and your prescription drug coverage would be under a private company, okay? And then if you want, you can also do a Medicare supplement, or what they refer to as a Medigap policy. A Medigap policy basically will help fill the gaps that original Medicare does not cover. Again, every service that you have under a Medicare supplement has to be originally covered by Medicare for the supplement to cover it as well. But you can get Medicare supplements that cover the whole 20% minus a deductible, okay? So it's just very important that you understand all of your options here. Again, don't want to get into too much minutia here, because that would be maybe a separate appointment. And I do want to say here that our Medicare Insurance Services meetings and appointments and education are at no cost. There's no fee for that portion of our services. Okay. Our meetings and our presentations are available to help you understand Medicare. We help research to help make an informed and educated decision regarding whether or not you would want to have a Medicare supplement, Medicare Advantage, or prescription drug plan. And we can also help you with your low-income subsidy application or Medicare savings plans. Again, my name is Carol Aragon Montgomery. I have worked in the long-term care planning field since 1991. For many of you, you won't realize that's 30 plus years, 31 plus years already. I did work at Altex. I worked at an elder law firm in the Valley, and I've been the owner and founder of Montgomery & Associates in the business since 2002, so for over 20 years. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that education. Again, our consulting is billed at $150 an hour. You've booked an appointment, so we'll see you soon. And just remember that we offer all of the services that are listed on this page. I hope you have a wonderful day. And again, I look forward to meeting you in person real soon.